Hello and welcome to Bright Times. Today in our nuclear series The Bomb, we're going to look at what a nuclear bomb is made from and what different types there are. As we've said in previous episodes, we're not nuclear scientists and consequently we're not looking to make this complicated. So here's what we do know. We've probably all heard of the different terms to describe nuclear weapons. Atomic bomb, A-bomb, nukes, hydrogen bomb, H-bomb, thermonuclear bomb, dirty bomb. We all understand that these are not necessarily the same thing. But what if it is the case that there are big differences? Right, best we start with a quick explanation of what a nuclear weapon is, so we all understand each other. It's an explosive device that derives its destructive force through either a fission-only nuclear reaction or a combination of both fission and fusion. Now we'll take a closer look at what these two types of nuclear reaction are shortly. However, put simply, all existing nuclear weapons derive some of their explosive energy from a nuclear fission reaction. And that doesn't matter if it's fired from land, air or sea. It's the same effect on detonation all the time. Okay, next. Nuclear weapons are vastly more powerful when compared to conventional bombs. This is because nuclear chain reactions cause huge amounts of energy from relatively small amounts of matter. To start, let's talk TNT, the standard explosive we use in conventional weapons, and what it's used to compare the explosive power. So let's create a reference point. What can 1 kilogram of TNT do? Well, under controlled conditions, 1 kilogram of TNT can obliterate a small vehicle. Now, you may have heard of the terms kiloton or megaton being used when describing the power of explosions. You know, like the nuclear bomb that was detonated over Hiroshima was blah 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 kilotons. Right, it was actually 16, but we're going to get there in a minute. Don't panic. These terms are just about the size multiples of nukes, like 10 times or 100 times versus the equivalent amount of TNT. So what that means, 1 kiloton nuclear weapon can produce the same amount of energy in an explosion as does 1 kiloton or 1,000 tons of TNT. Similarly, a megaton weapon would have the energy equivalent of 1 million tons of TNT. Confused yet? We're getting there. Or, looking at it in a different way, a thermonuclear weapon weighing a little bit more than a modern day 2,000 pound JDAM conventional bomb can release energy equivalent to 1.2 million tons of TNT, or over 1 megaton. Another big difference is that a conventional bomb releases most of its energy in the form of the blast, so it's localized but lethal. Nuclear weapons, on the other hand, release 50% of their energy as the blast, 35% as heat, and 15% as nuclear radiation. In other words, a nuke will destroy everything within its massive blast range, whilst it also burns and irradiates vast areas outside of that as well. To put it very bluntly, nuclear weapons are far more destructive. Now might be a good time to note that the largest nuclear test ever recorded was detonated by the Russians in 1954. This was called Tsar Bomba. This was around 58,000 kilotons. For reference, the Hiroshima bomb, which removed a guesstimated 130,000 people from this planet, was just 16 kilotons. Now it gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. Perhaps this Also might be the right time to talk about a recurring question our viewers have had from previous episodes, which is, how many nuclear bombs do we need to destroy the Earth? That's a good question, and it's actually pretty straightforward. According to nuclear scientists, we need about 100 modern H-bombs to do the job. That's all. 100. Anyway, now we've gone through some general clarification points, let's look at the two types of nuclear reaction we've already noted at the start. Fission and fusion. Fission. These were the first types of nuclear weapons used by the US in 1945 and are more commonly known as the atomic bomb, or simply the A-bomb. They used either enriched uranium or plutonium as the fissile material, where a mass of either one is forced into a chain reaction which then drives an ever-increasing growth of further chain reaction, causing a cataclysmic explosion. But how do we get this chain reaction going? Supercriticality, as it's called. It's created by either shooting one piece of subcritical material into another, called the gun method, or compression of a supercritical sphere or cylinder using chemically fueled explosive lenses. This implosion method is far more sophisticated and more efficient than the gun method. It's also worth noting that all fusion reactions create serious forms of radioactive contamination, which are either highly radioactive and short-lived, or moderately radioactive but long-lived. This is the principal radioactive component of nuclear fallout we've all heard so much about. However, there is another big radiation issue in regards to the amounts of neutrons produced in the explosion, and we're going to cover that later in the episode. So that's fission. So next is nuclear fusion. Like fission, they produce large proportions of their energy by relying on fusion reactions between isotopes of hydrogen. The more technical name for these isotopes are deuterium and tritium. These hydrogen-based weapons are therefore referred as the hydrogen bomb. The H-bomb, thermonuclear bomb, which is based on the heat they can generate by causing these reactions. However, all such fusion weapons get a significant portion of their energy from fission reactions, as fission material is used to trigger fusion reactions. To start with, much like a spark is used to ignite gunpowder. Then the fusion reactions themselves can trigger additional fission reactions and so on. Something we'd probably call the snowball effect, but perhaps we should just rename it to the destroy everything effect. Anyway, in short, these thermonuclear bombs use the energy of an initial fission reaction to compress and heat fusion fuel to thermonuclear temperatures. An interesting fact that a thermonuclear bomb can reach temperatures of 100 million degrees Celsius. That's as hot as our sun. In simple terms, we're all going to get a really bad dose of sunburn if someone decides to drop one. Anyway, this ensuing reaction creates enormous numbers of high-speed neutrons, which can then induce fission in materials not normally prone to it, such as depleted uranium. This provides far more bang for your buck, if you'll excuse the intentional pun. Each of these components is known as a stage. The fission bomb is the primary stage, and the fusion capsule is the secondary stage. Virtually all thermonuclear weapons deployed today use this two-stage system. Now, fusion reactions do not create fission products, and thus they contribute far less to the creation of nuclear fallout than fission reactions that we spoke about earlier. However, because of all this thermonuclear weapons contained in this initial fission stage, and in the many high-yield thermonuclear devices, they have a final fission stage as well. This means that a thermonuclear weapon can generate at least as much nuclear fallout as a fission-only weapon. Furthermore, high-yield thermonuclear explosions, especially ground bursts, have the force to lift radioactive debris upwards past the troposphere into the stratosphere, where the calm currents permit the debris to travel great distances from the original site, eventually settling and contaminating areas far removed from the target of the explosion. And that's really bad for all of us. Okay, as we said at the start, as part of the Nuclear Fallout horror show, we're also going to take a quick look at neutrons, which are produced by a nuclear explosion, and why they are so deadly. First of all, the detonation of any nuclear weapon is accompanied by a blast of neutron radiation. Second, this blast then causes a thing called neutron activation, which is the ability of neutron radiation to induce radioactivity in most substances it encounters, including bodily fluids. And that's really bad for everyone living on this planet. It's also worth noting there have been many tests done by the world's nuclear powers where they surround such nuclear weapons with materials such as cobalt to deliberately create a version of a thermonuclear bomb known as a salted bomb or dirty bomb. This type of device is officially defined as an enhanced radiation weapon. It is a low-yield thermonuclear weapon designed to maximize lethal neutron radiation in the immediate vicinity of the blast while minimizing the physical power of the blast itself. The neutrons released are then generated by nuclear fusion reaction. They are intentionally allowed to escape the weapon rather than being absorbed by other components. It has been conjectured that dirty bombs could serve as a doomsday weapon because such a large quantity of radioactivity with half-lives of decades spilled into the stratosphere would make life on this planet extinct. So, that's where we are at. There are two types of nuclear bomb: fission, or a combined fission and fusion, and both are utterly deadly. Both deliver radiation, and both can be made even more deadly by deliberately increasing the amount of neutron fallout, which is about removing all of humans while leaving the infrastructure intact. And finally, I can't stress this point enough. We only need 100 nukes to remove all of us from this planet. There's definitely a few things to think about here. Anyway, we hope we helped you understand where we stand with nukes today. We've attached relevant links for your reference and would love to get your comments and feedback if you think we've missed something or you want us to cover anything more in depth. So, if you enjoyed our content, please like, subscribe and get notified. Hey, I hope you have a good day, or at least the best day you can have now. Now you know that we can obliterate the planet in only a matter of hours, and we've got more than enough nukes to do it. And if you want to know how many nukes that every country has, stay tuned and keep an eye on our podcast. We'll let you know. Let's peace and love to you all.